Aside from the upcoming Han Solo anthology film, Disney have taken to releasing their new generation of Star Wars movies every December. You know, the month of things that come around once a year but are always the fucking best fucking thing ever. And up next is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, which has just been teased at this year's Star Wars Celebration. It's exactly what a teaser should be, mostly just hinting at the film's overall feel, rather than giving away 2/3 of its narrative. Spider-Man Homecoming. Perhaps the best part about all of this, though, is that despite only giving us 2 minutes to work with, House of Mouse, God bless them, still managed to cram this thing with plenty of Easter eggs. I'm Peter from Whatculture.com. I had chocolate for breakfast and I feel a bit sick, and here are 15 Last Jedi Easter eggs and secrets you probably missed. Number 15, Yoda's alive? He's not. Now let's get the tinfoil hats one out of the way first, because there is a crazy theory going around the internet about the stack of rocks in this shot of Rey training in silhouette. Watching her from the right is probably Luke, but atop the column on the left is another small rock, or an inanimate object of some kind. Anyway, that's all it is. People think it's Yoda because it's sort of Yoda-shaped and way smaller than the column itself, but you know how it goes. Size matters not. Number 14, the parallels with The Force Awakens. Whether you call it homage or unoriginality, sequel trilogy Star Wars quite openly loves to rhyme or echo with stuff we've seen in previous movies. Force Awakens was a blatant nod to A New Hope, and The Last Jedi is already looking a bit like Empire's little brother, but they're even doing it with the fucking teasers now. The mildly startling opening of Rey gasping at a rock is not unlike when Finn wheezed into frame for the first look at The Force Awakens. Similarly, we've got shots of the Falcon being pursued by TIE fighters and Resistance ships flying in low formation across a new planet. There's even a shot of Kylo's broken helmet with some very familiar heavy breathing overlaid, just like the shot of the janky Vader mask we saw 2 years ago. Number 13, floating rocks. While we're on the subject, here is the first borrowed reference from The Empire Strikes Back. Evidently, The Last Jedi is going to have at least some focus on Rey's training under Luke, much like those Dagobah Muppet backpack scenes we all remember so well. And looky here, Rey makes rocks float with one hand on the floor, which is actually very reminiscent of the flight scene from 2013's Man of Steel, but also very similar to when Luke made rocks float with one hand on the floor. His is more impressive though. Number 12, the Journal of the Whills and the Jedi Order logo. Books. You don't see many of these in current Star Wars, but in the now retconned Star Wars Legends, there was a very special book called the Journal of the Whills, which recorded galactic history and may have even contained prophetic references to sand-hating Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker.
I don't like sand.
In fact, the initial outline for the story that became A New Hope was called The Journal of the Whills Part 1 and was going to entail R2-D2 recounting the film's events to a mysterious so-called Keeper of the Whills, who would then record them in the journal. But what's this got to do with The Last Jedi? Well, so far we know thanks to the Force Awakens novelization that the canon version of the Journal of the Whills contains some references to the Jedi Order, and in Rogue One, Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus refer to themselves as Guardians of the Whills. All we can say for sure is that Luke has books on his shelf, one of them with the Jedi logo on them, and the Journal of the Whills is gradually being brought back into canon, so Luke has the Journal of the Whills. Maybe. We'll see. Number 11, the hand opening. The fact that this teaser begins with a close-up of Rey's hand might actually be a bit of coy fan service. Allegedly, the original opening for The Force Awakens was going to be a shot of Luke Skywalker's severed hand floating through space, and while no one can say for sure whether such a shot would even make sense in the saga's continuity, it's still kind of sad that it didn't make it because damn, that would have been a fascinating plot piece. Number 10, the voices. Underneath the dialogue spoken by Luke, there are 3 key quotes that are pretty easy to miss the first time around, and each ties into one of the 3 things that Rey sees: light, darkness, and balance. Around the time of light, we see Leia on screen and hear her hologram from A New Hope say, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi." With darkness, we see Kylo's mask, and as well as Vader's breathing, we hear Ben Kenobi saying, "Seduced by the dark side," a line about Vader in A New Hope. Finally, with balance and the symbol of the Jedi Order, we have Yoda. It surrounds us, it binds us. It all works quite nicely, but I think for darkness I'd have preferred the line, "Misa hatin' crunchin'."
That's the last thing Misa wantin'.
Number 9, familiar Resistance members. Back to the shot of Leia now for some proper zoom and enhanced speculation. Squinting through the hologram star map that envelops most of the background, we can see what could potentially, possibly, be Ken Leung's Admiral Statora from The Force Awakens, the guy that pretty much came up with the plan to destroy Starkiller Base. Good guy. And what's that? A Mon Calamari officer? Hell yes. Sadly, Eric Bauersfeld, the voice of Admiral Akbar, is no longer with us, so it's possible this is just some nameless background extra, but it could still totally be everyone's favourite trap spotter, so watch this space. Number 8, the Crate Walkers. Here we get our first look at what we already know to be called the Battle of Crate, an isolated mining planet home to a former rebel base, which is attacked by those First Order walkers you can see way off in the distance. Interestingly, these walkers might not be a model we're familiar with. Rumours abound that we're to expect a new kind of walker in this movie called an AT-4X, said to have gorilla-like traits. They're meant to be much bigger than anything we've seen before, and there also appear to be rather a lot of them. This is going to be one hell of a scuffle. Number 7, the Red Smoke. Before we move on though, there might actually be a very subtle Easter egg here. In 1988, George Lucas started working on a World War II story about a group of African American pilots, which wasn't actually released as a movie until 2012, nearly a quarter of a century later. The film was named after the distinctive markings on the pilots' planes, red tails. Number 6, the writing on Finn's pod. You will rarely, if ever, see written English in the galaxy far, far away. Instead, one of the most common alphabets used is one called Arabesh, these distinctive scrolls. They are actually interchangeable with the letters of the Roman alphabet, which allows Star Wars dorks, my favourite kind of dork, to actually translate snippets of text. And guess what? During this shot of Finn in some sort of back to suit or medical pod, the holographic text literally says, stable. Thanks dorks, I was getting worried. Number 5, A-Wings. Last seen in Return of the Jedi, these fan favourite ships didn't show up in The Force Awakens, though they have had appearances in other new canon material that says they're still very much in use in that period of galactic history. So, it's a lovely thing to see that they're going to make a triumphant return in The Last Jedi. Here's the back end of one to the left of Poe's exploding X-Wing, but I did also spot one whiz by in the first of the 2 space battle shots. So there. Number 4, Kylo Ren. We get just the one shot of villain Kylo Ren in the trailer, but it's a doozy, with the son of Han and Leia illuminated by the glow of his jagged red lightsaber. It means we also get a first look at his new scar, which he sports after his lightsaber duel with Rey. What's perhaps more intriguing though is the smashed mask we see earlier in the trailer. It belongs to Kylo Ren for sure, but it does pose the question of whether this is the one that was on Starkiller Base or a new one. The former would probably be totally destroyed unless he nipped off to get it before the entire planet went up in smoke. What's maybe more likely is that he gets himself a new mask, but then smashes it up at some point, probably in a juvenile fit of petulant rage. Oh Kylo. Number 3, Phasma attacks the Resistance base, not a temple. Thanks to the tricksy trailer editing, you may well be under the impression that the chrome-clad trooper makes her unlikely return in this scene with Luke and R2-D2 who are watching the destruction of some form of temple. However, recalling Rey's vision in The Force Awakens, this must actually be a flashback to the day Kylo Ren destroyed Luke's Jedi Academy. Phasma, on the other hand, is walking on a shiny floor surrounded by pretty mechanical-looking debris, so we're fairly sure that she's actually marching through this besieged Resistance base or ship from these shots featuring Poe. Number 2, the Forestry. Going back to Luke's little book collection, we can see that it looks like they're sitting on a shelf surrounded by tree branches. Now, sound the trivia alarm, because did you know that a Force-sensitive tree once grew at the heart of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant? It was removed after Darth Sidious assumed control of the galaxy, but 2 living twigs remained, and in the comic Shattered Empire were retrieved from an Imperial base by Luke Skywalker and Shara Bay, Poe's mother. Luke gave one to Bay, who planted it outside her home on Yavin 4, but kept the other for himself. All of this is canon, I should say, so there's a good chance that Luke brought the twig with him to the island, perhaps after first planting it at his Jedi Academy. Interestingly, if you brighten the image of Luke at the end of the teaser, you can see that the cave here isn't a cave at all, but the inside of the tree. And number 1, Grey Jedi. Sticking with that climactic moment, Luke's final words are perhaps a sign that the concept of Grey Jedi is finally going to make it to the movies. Originally, this was a Star Wars Legends term given to a Force user who walks the line between light and dark, although another meaning is a Jedi who's distanced themselves from the Order and the High Council. We've seen Ahsoka Tano take to using white lightsabers and existing outside the Jedi Order in Rebels, while that show has also introduced Bendu, a Force-sensitive entity who wields neither the light nor dark, but, quote, the one in the middle. Based on Luke's words then, as well as the focus on balance that plays across the whole trailer, we may at last be presented with Grey Jedi or something similar come December. Until then, an excerpt from the new canon version of the Journal of the Whills is all we have to keep us satiated. First comes the day, then comes the night. After the darkness shines through the light. The difference, they say, is only made right by the resolving of grey through refined Jedi sight. And that's our list. Now, did we leave anything out? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us what you thought of the teaser in general. Don't forget to go to whatculture.com for all of your Star Wars news, lists, and articles, and you can follow us all on Twitter here. I'm Peter from whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.